Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of the Conversation Capital. Today we're hanging out with, of course, the voice of reason behind the microphone, Bonga Bueta. Hi, Bonga.
Hey.
How you doing, girl?
I'm good, thanks.
Today we're chatting all things to do with divorce, early divorce, later divorce, the experience of divorce, love, marriage, and we have a guest in studio. Thank you so much for joining us, Thandeka Mkhize. Hello.
Hello.
How you doing, girl?
I'm doing great.
Are you great?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I never thought I'd be sitting on such a platform discussing my life and divorce journey.
It's such a tricky thing. So, let me not even tell your story. I think I'll just ask questions that allow you to tell your story. And so maybe let's just start there. Who's Thandeka Mkhize?
Thandeka Mkhize khabazelwa amavovo ugubhela ugcwala. Nzalo kaluzalo, that's me.
Sure.
That's me.
You remind me of that song, Wanela Zone. I love that song. Do you know it, Cass?
No, I don't know.
People that are listening know.
Yes, now I'm such a boring person. I don't know it. What I will say though, for those of you that are maybe wondering why we're, ululating and things, so there's something called the Stagazelo in South Africa that, somebody would then speak of their clan names. And that's what she just did. And when somebody does something like that, ideally, you would then ululate to celebrate where the person comes from and their family and their heritage.
Yeah.
That was beautiful. I definitely couldn't do anything close. Do you know your Stagazelo?
Not at all. My dad has to remind me all the time.
How? You look like the type that would know.
But I don't come from a home that has a rich culture.
Oh,
I really
okay.
don't.
Okay.
I really don't.
All right. So, yes,
Yeah,
anyway,
so-
Thandeka Mkhize, I don't know, should we dive straight into it? What's your story? I think cat out the bag is obviously that you're a divorcee. And I know that you got divorced at a rather young age. And, and so what's your story? Where do you meet him? How do you fall in love? What makes you decide this is my ever after? What happened?
Yeah, wow, that's an interesting one. So basically, I grew up in a small town of KZN. Then I moved to Pretoria to do my degree, and that's where I met my then ex-husband right now. We were friends for the longest time throughout our university life, and was probably in the last year, honors year, if not my first year of working, then we started dating. It was a very short dating stint, like probably 10 months or something, before he proposed. So because we already knew each other, like we knew each other's partners before, breakups, we'd talk. He was like the guy or the girl in the group of friends that we had. So we called him one of the girls, basically. So everyone knew him. And it was just that friendship that we all had. That guy, like, oh, if we need something, call him. If we need to be picked up, call him. So I know when we got married, my friends were not happy. It's like, you took one of our friends. Now we don't know what to call you guys. Because now we can't call him Jay and be like, hey, dude, we need help. So, that's how we met and started dating. And I think probably how I decided that this is the love of my life at the time was because I already knew him for 4 years as who he was without meeting someone new and trying to discover who he is. I just knew him for who he was from that period. Yes. So, that's how we ended up getting married. I think I was 24 at the time. I don't generally keep track of the ages, but I remember the years. So it was 2013. That we got married. I know some people will say, but we saw you walking down the aisle in January 2014, but that was just the ceremony. We got married September 2013 before the January ceremony. It was interesting marriage. It was a happy marriage for most parts until things started crumbling.
Until it wasn't,
Until it wasn't, I think what contributed to that, we're both young, and people grow and evolve over time. So you don't stay as the same person. The person that I was 2013 is definitely not the Thandeka that I am now.
Yes.
So you grow and evolve. So you need to be able, from what I've learned, you need to be able to grow together. And support each other in your growth process and understanding each other. And when you start growing apart, then that causes a lot of commotion. and also just external noises that come into play in your relationships. It just becomes more difficult in a marriage when you have external voices coming in to say, this is how things should be. We don't think you should be this way. We don't think you should do this in your household. Because ours was a very non-gender role marriage.
Yes.
So it wasn't a matter of I need to come home and I need to cook. I need to do this. It was like, who wants to do what in this marriage? He liked cooking, so he was literally the chef. I would do the cleaning and stuff like that. But there was no arguments like, yeah, you must cook. I come back, why there's no food? No, we didn't do that. So for other people, it was weird and not organic.
Was he also from KZN?
No. So he's Tonga from Mpumalanga.
Oh, so but he also comes from a deeply cultural type of area, because KZN is deeply cultural, and people, a guy that's Tonga, mostly they'll be very, very cultural. So that's why I'm thinking external voices are looking at your marriage from these really hectic culture places that view cultural norms as being the way to go. They are looking from the outside and they're like, nope.
Yeah. But an interesting thing, like we both don't come from what I call cultural. We'll say that because we'd say like, I remember asking him before we get married, like, how's your family? How's your mom and stuff like that? It's like, oh no, we're cool. We're not cultural in terms of probably traditional, because it's he was coming from a Christian background and same as me. But you find that the cultural stuff still comes in indirectly, as much as you were told we are in a Christian household here, but you still see those.
It's not like they will slaughter, but they look at the marriage and say,
this is how
you should
it's
be cooking for our son.
Yes,
you should
like,
be, because I remember there was a lady when I was in high school. She was my math teacher, and she was like from a super Christian background, and she wanted to get married to a Tsonga guy. I don't know if this was the case in your, I don't know what the case was, but I remember it was the first time I was introduced to the concept that the family couldn't take out Mahadi until she could prove that she could bear a child. And she was iti, never been touched, and so they were like, great for you, but she has to prove that she's a child bearer, and she had to fall pregnant before they could take out Mahadi for her. So it became a whole thing. It became a whole thing. Yeah. So
I can understand. Yeah, it is a thing. I remember there was a time I was called. I think he was playing soccer, and they couldn't get hold of him. So they called me. I'm like, oh no, I'm watching him play soccer. It's like, why aren't you at home cooking? So, like those type of things. Like, well, I'm here to support him play soccer. We'll cook when we get home, and he does the cooking anyway. So.
Sure, it becomes so difficult when they're external, like you mentioned, the external voices and whatever that creep in. I remember a friend of mine being advised, somebody said to the husband to say that your parents will never disown you. They're your parents. But this girl is a stranger.
Yep.
At the end of the day, they just met her. She was brought into the family via you. And so you're the one that needs to be the buffer.
Yeah.
And in her family, she'll be the buffer because her parents are not going to disown her. But at the end of the day, you're a stranger that's walking into their home. As much as people say, oh, he's my son now. He's no longer a son-in-law. At the end of the day, you need to be a buffer because it's not from son-in-law to you are the daughter. You're not going to be disowned by your family. So you take the cushioning in between the in-laws, and it's always, I think, very difficult when somebody doesn't get that advice to say you need to be the buffer between the mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law, because your mom won't disown you.
That's the
you
thing.
know, it needs to be you that says, "I mamzo is sinkamatandi." You know,
exactly, and that's exactly true. I think that also what led to our eventual divorce. Not having that buffer to say, dude, you need to stand and say, listen, you can't come
beyond
in
this
between
point.
here, beyond this point. There are certain boundaries. And if you are caught between deciding where do I go, and I'm of the view, you shall leave your mother and father and cleave with your husband and wife. So if you're still undecided, like, oh, they're saying this at home, but you're saying this, where do I go? It is going to cause friction. Yeah, were you ready?
Should you have been
gotten married? I know I was at the time, because I committed to it to say, whatever ups and downs we're going to go through, I will be there. probably on his end, he wasn't ready. So when we were faced with those type of situations, it was hard for him to choose. And on my side, I'm like, dude, why aren't you picking me?
This is a no-brainer.
Like, obviously, pick me.
Yeah, I also struggle, and I'm not married now, but I also struggle with no-brainer things. Like, this is a no-brainer.
Choose me.
Yeah.
Oh, in so many things.
Yes.
Ultimately, dude, choose me. Oh, I could cry about this one. I'm so passionate. Like, just choose me, bruh. I'm choosing you all the time.
Yeah, because it creates a thing of now you feel like, you see that you're not being seen in your own marriage. And no one wants to be not seen. We all want to be seen and appreciated.
Because at the end of the day, you're creating your own nuclear family here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like you said, leave and cleave.
Exactly.
You know, and I know that you grew up under this thing where this is the family unit, but now you've got a totally new family unit that needs to take precedence.
Yeah.
You know, and sure, there's so much to say about that. But okay, let's start with, you know, where do you first start seeing these like red flags? Where you're like, hey,
Yeah. Where do you see them? I guess in the little things that happen. I won't say the details of the things that would happen, but you just start seeing where in the beginning you can see the person is protecting you when something is said. Some things we won't even be told that, oh, this is what happened, but I buffered you, but you find out later. But then when you start seeing it in your face, where something happens and the person is not protecting you, then you're like, whoa, what's actually happening here? Because, I mean, I left my family. So like you said, we're saying earlier that I'm the one coming into this family and these are your people. So when you are not defending me, I'm going to feel a certain way. And I'm generally a quiet person. Well, now I talk. But back then I was very reserved and would just keep quiet and watch and be like waiting. Is something going to happen? And then eventually when I would raise it and voice it, would be like, oh yeah, I saw that happening, but I thought you were okay. Do you want me to do something about it? And then it became a thing of, if you're still asking me if something should be done about an incident that happened, let's rather just
I shouldn't have to tell you.
You're not recognizing the depth of
it. And at the time, I didn't know how to vocalize my feelings, how something made me feel.
I think that's an important thing to note, though, that you know, it is important at the end of the day that you also take the acknowledgement to say, maybe I could have been more vocal.
Yes.
You know, because it becomes easy to want somebody to read your mind, but they can't.
Yeah.
And that's only something you learn when you're older.
Yeah.
That somebody can't read your mind.
And I know that we used to have some arguments around that, but I thought, like, now you get me. If I say, like, are you okay? And I say no. And you ask me again and I say no, then you know I'm not okay, you know? But I needed to learn to say, to vocalize, to say, okay, this is how I'm feeling, this is how this makes me feel. Because you find that if you don't do that, the person's going to get accustomed to that. So even when you do start vocalizing, because I realized in the end when I was starting to vocalize, it's a new thing now. It's like, okay, what are you doing now? I don't know, you like this?
You see, I love what you're saying here, because what happens is that you are rewarding these bad habits by being quiet.
Yeah.
You know, and then when it's time to stop, all of a sudden, hi, boo. That's not how we roll.
No. Yeah.
You know, you take what I give you. You take what I give you. And it's because you allow somebody to get, even in friendships, you know, I've noticed that you allow somebody to do certain things that when it's time to speak up, they're like, no, but when did you start? When did you? And it's true. You allowed it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, until you reach the point, like, okay, let's talk, but it needs to be received.
And I'd like to know, this is a question that would seem for the end, but I just want to ask it now. Like, you were so young. How did it change your perspective on relationships? Like now, how do you view relationships?
I will say in the beginning, like, I was very angry. Like when the marriage ended, because he's the one that left the marriage, because he was caught. As much at the time I didn't know, it was what, based on analyzing, I could see that he was caught between a rock and a hard place. A rock and a hard. Who do I choose? If I choose her, they'll hate me. If I choose them, she'll hate me. And it ended up being, okay, family, even though it wasn't vocalized, but I could see that. So I was angry for the longest time. I was hurt because I kept saying, but I didn't do anything. And you start questioning yourself, like, what did I do? Even when you know that you didn't do anything, you end up trying to find a reasoning in the smallest things, like maybe because I didn't wash the dishes that day, that's why he left. So I started questioning myself, and I was very angry. I felt rejected. It was just a whole lot of emotion. Nothing made sense. So I was just against relationships, angry at men, like everything. But over time, and started accepting that this is what it is, and accepting that I didn't contribute. It was his decision that he made. Yes, there are fights in any relationships, but there shouldn't be the reason to say, okay, now I'm done filing for divorce type of thing. But now I'm at a space where like I am pro-marriage. I'm definitely pro-relationships. I still want to get married again. Definitely nothing against relationships. As much as others have not worked out, but pro.
Do you think there was a huge contributing factor to the age that you were? Do you think you guys were? Because I remember I met a lady who was well in her 40s, and she explained that she got married at 19 and then divorced before 25. And she was one of the most amazing people I know. And she was a cleaner in the block of flats that I lived in undergrad. And we would like sit and really just talk, you know. And I remember the one day she said, you know, I'm happy for anybody who gets married, but if you get married too young, you make the mistake of just being too young and being too immature to handle certain things. Because when I look back, so she had left her husband. She says, everything that I left him for at the time seemed so big and monumental. And now looking back, it just wasn't such a big deal, you know? And now, you know, and I've had many stories like that where, you know, this other lady, it wasn't that they got divorced, but it was a huge contentious thing in their marriage, you know, right at the beginning of their marriage when they were young. And she says, 40 years into it, we're like, I can't believe that weighed on us so heavily. That was so stupid, you know? So are there certain things that you look at and you think if you guys were both a bit older? Laurie Harvey says timing is everything. Is there anything that if you look at, you know, if we're just a little bit older, it could have worked out differently? Do you think so? Or do you think you had irreconcilable differences no matter the time and era?
No, I don't think they were irreconcilable, but I think the age and timing could have made it different. It resulted in something else. That does play a factor because you're still young, you're still learning yourself. The person is also an individual on their own. And so you need to merge those two together, that you're growing, I'm growing, and we need to grow at the same pace. You find that if now a person starts growing because he was growing in his own league, I was following behind. It's like, you're falling behind, girl, like, can you catch up type of thing. But if you're at a more matured age or space, because maturity doesn't have to depend on age really, it's easier to understand and deal with conflict when it comes. So if you haven't dealt with conflict in a relationship before and now you're married at a young age, you still don't have the tools or you don't know where to seek guidance from in order to help you guide you through that. So I do believe age does play a factor in terms of maturity in essence, because I could have learned what I know now over time, and then we meet. It's just the same as him. I remember my mom in high school saying, when I was going to varsity, we'd always get the speech, now you're going to university. One of the things she said to me is like, ungasheshi ukhethe, meaning do not choose early, because you'll meet someone in high school and you think they're the love of your life, then you go to varsity, there's different guys there as well. Then you start working, you meet different people there, so take your time. So I do believe in taking your time. And even me getting married early, it was never my thing. I had always planned that I will get married at 35 because I want to just enjoy my life, be free, travel, and just do whatever I need to do before I get married. And it was just funny that how I just got married.
Things just happened.
Yeah. Well, I know why they happened then, because we wanted to have sex. And so it just was just like, let's just make it legal, then we can just
Sure.
No respect to you guys.
Can we get into that? Do you regret then that? Do you wish you had just had sex?
I do. I do. I think knowing what I know now, sorry, Mom, but it's just like, you know, the things that pressure that society places on sex before marriage, because you end up rushing into things without actually understanding.
Thandeka, you're doing a big thing here.
What you are doing. And I was like, okay, I just want to do it because now, okay, we have to get married then to do it, you know? So my views on sex before marriage are different now. Maybe there needs to be a different narrative how we speak about it in our communities and church versus to just say no. Yeah, if I'd known better, I probably would have done it differently, you know, because it also creates, because of the environment, it creates that guilt. You're just like, oh, I feel like you condemn yourself. You're just like, I feel dirty. Just everything is wrong about me, and you don't want to do that. It doesn't help you with your self-confidence and going out to the world and flourishing. So,
okay.
yeah.
And then, you know, I don't know. I think marriage is, in essence, like I said, like a very complicated thing. But everybody that I've met post-divorce always says it wasn't irreconcilable, like you just said now. So, in another world, would you try again? Because I know that you still talk to him. Would you try again?
With him?
Yeah.
No.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
No. For me, it's you've showed me your colors, and I understand that you were going through something. I forgive you, and we talk. There's no bad blood whatsoever, but I wouldn't go back there. I just, knowing what I know, knowing what I went through, me knowing that you didn't stand up for me, like that cut me like anything. Like it was just rejection to the core for me, and I don't want to take myself back to that space because I'll probably be questioning, is he going to do it again? Is something going to happen? Then I'll be like, let's see how is he going to respond to it. Is he going to stand up for me? And I don't want to go through that.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, literally, but there's no bad blood.
Do you think there could have been a different weight with regards to, you know, taking the decision to say, okay, I want out of the marriage, if there was a child involved? Because I know that you guys don't have children.
I think on his side, there would have been a different weight.
Do you think it made things easier for you to grow and heal, not having had a child with him?
No. I think I need to correct that narrative because I get it a lot when I speak to people about, oh, I'm divorced. I mean, when they're asked, it's like, oh, do you have children? I'm like, no. Oh, so then it's easier. It is not easier just because there are no children involved. Divorce is grief. You are losing. A part of you is getting ripped apart. It's like any grief, losing a loved one. They're not here physically, but they're there in spirit. Now with divorce, they're not here physically, but you might bump into them with another woman, and that thought just causes havoc. So it does not make the pain any less or easier just because there were no children involved in a marriage. And for me, that needs to be correct. Because I found myself when people would say that, then I'll just keep quiet and be like, okay, I'm okay.
Because it almost minimizes
your
hurt.
Yeah. And you go into life believing that your pain is not valid. I had to go through that journey after divorce, and I'd always minimize my pains in different areas because of this, to say you didn't have children, so it can't be that bad. You're okay. It's easier to recover. You still go through the same motions that any other divorced person with kids goes through. It's literally your body and heart gets ripped apart. It's unbearable.
Can I ask, and feel free not to answer if you don't want to, the decision not to have kids, was that intentional?
Yeah, that was intentional.
Okay.
Purely finances. We're still young. We're like, we just started out in our careers.
Yes.
There was no way we were going to be raising a family, living in a bachelor. So for us, we're very calculated finance people. So just like the numbers are not adding up, and we still need to grow in our careers. So let's not have kids. I mean, we did think about it at some point when we'd be like just joking around. They'd be like, who's going to pay for the nappies? No, there's no money for those.
And then moving forward now in the new era of your life, now you're doing the work. I don't believe we're ever healed. Are we ever healed? Maybe. But there's some things that, it's always a sore point. I don't know,
I think you do heal in different areas in your life.
Yes.
For me, from divorce, I have healed. Now I'm in a journey of healing in other areas in my life.
Sure.
So you probably as you grow in life, the journey of healing is in different areas. That's my view, personally.
Okay. So you're constantly going through a healing process. Mara lefatshe lena la re lematsane.
For different things, because I believe you heal as well.
Yeah.
But it's creepy though that you're always
It's
healing
healing
from something.
Thing.
Yep.
You see, like honestly, now I'm healing from losing a friend. Like, not from death, but like
A breakup,
losing a friendship breakup.
It's
That's
such
another
a
loss
painful
on its
breakup.
own.
We do.
It's like,
We need to talk about friendship breakups. They're also so painful.
painful. It's painful. You cry. You're just like, God, what's happening?
I must reevaluate my relationships because I don't cry after friendship breakup.
No.
Now I've cried for friends.
I-
I can even cry when I can see I haven't lost a friend, but I'm about to. I already start crying, Clara. I'm meeting them for coffee and I'm like, because you're just so toxic in my heart. I'm like, it's just so toxic and I'm going to need to break up with you soon. Anyway, so going forward, how is dating now?
Yes.
How is that? How are you, you know?
Plus, you look like a young 2000.
Yeah, I'm
I'm like,
I'm 1,000.
30 plus. And you know, I get macked on by 2000.
I want to literally 2000.
Yeah.
It's crazy. No, dating life has been hectic for me. It's, just relationships not working out.
There's
but
nothing in the streets, guys.
This is so
we're
true.
still looking.
Please
but
repeat that into the
There's
mic.
nothing.
There is nothing in the
If you're
streets,
in a
guys.
relationship, make it work.
yeah,
Unless he's
Guys-
abusing you and he's toxic, but there is
No.
nothing in the
There's
streets.
nothing in the streets.
it's tough. It's tough. I think I'm better now because until you heal, the cycle will keep repeating itself. So the same cycles in my ex-marriage, I was seeing them happening in my relationships. We were just like, yo, dude, what are you doing? You know? So I've been going through cycles of relationships not working out, but now I see why that didn't work out. But it's because I feared rejection because of what I went through in divorce, that I'll just be holding on to something that was dead. You toxic to me, but I'm just like, oh, this guy can't leave. This guy can't leave.
And he can, actually.
He can, but at the time it's like, because I didn't understand where it's coming from, that
Yes.
I need to have this attention at all costs, and that ends up breaking you even more. So until I went through that, and accepted and understood where it came from, then healed, I'm in a better space to meet people again, and see where it goes.
Even in
But
what we're saying, I think I need to correct that there's nothing in the streets because that keeps people in these terrible, toxic things.
yeah,
There's something.
guys,
I take it back. There is something in the streets. There's what I don't know, 50 million
Listen.
people. I don't know the number, but there's millions of people out here, you know, and there are other humans, and you can meet other humans. And
Let me
I take
tell
it
you.
back. Bonga,
Yes,
you're by
let me-
yourself on there's nothing in this
But
street.
let me tell
Guys,
you, there
I mean,
are.
only if you are not in a toxic one. But otherwise, if like what we're talking about today, they are what reconcilable.
Yes, reconcilable.
Fix it.
Yeah. But don't stay if it's toxic, guys. In a world full of how many billion of people, there's surely someone out there for you.
Honestly.
Someone said, you are someone's vision board, literally. Just like you have a vision board of your future husband, partner, your future husband is also having you on the vision board. So
I'm just going to get
Do
a
not.
question in from Babsy there. Babsy's hand is up. He's like, I need to say something. Babsy, what's your question?
Okay, all right. So I wanna ask, Kanye. We know that like Thandeka, sorry, I said Kanye. You know that like in relationships, the success and the failure of the relationship is between two people. What is it that do you think that you have done that contributed to the divorce? That you are now realizing which I should have done better, right? Because like a divorce can be between two people. It can't be like from one person to say no. Okay, we are divorcing. It's between two people. What is it that like you are realizing that maybe I did this thing wrong? Now that I know, I will do it right, like in my next relationship or marriage.
absolutely nothing.
Wow.
Nothing.
Okay.
Like, No, like, I'll put it there, absolutely nothing.
Sure.
Because I went through a phase where I started blaming myself, trying to figure out what I did that I needed
Was
to
there
change.
anything abusive in the relationship, you know?
No, it was only towards the end when we separated. We separated for like a year before the official divorce.
Yeah.
Then it became more verbal abuse.
Yes.
But it just came from anger on his end, and I was on the receiving end. Yeah, but before that, he's not an abusive person in nature, and I knew that to the core of who he is. And so there's nothing that I could have done. And when I would get asked that, what did you do that contribute, and I would try and think and be getting so angry with myself that why can't I identify my blind spots? But honestly, in that marriage, there was nothing that I did wrong. And I only recently...
Have you gone to therapy since?
Yeah, oh no, I was in therapy when the divorce started. I was just like, yo, I can't handle this. I need help. So I've been in therapy since 2016.
Sure.
Whilst we were going through the separation, I'm still in therapy now. So I'll probably still be in therapy because I'm evolving. Just to go back to if there's anything that I contributed to. So I was trying to say that I even confirmed it recently because I knew that there's nothing that I did wrong to contribute to the divorce. But when you start hearing too many voices, even when you've gone through your healing journey, I was on holiday recently in Kenya. So I usually travel solo. So the driver's asking me, so you're going alone? I'm like, yeah, I'm by myself. And then you're single? I'm like, yeah, I'm divorced. Then it's like, yeah, you must have done something. You must have. And I'm like, no, I didn't do anything. And it literally left a mark on me because I started now questioning, okay, is this the reason why my relationships don't work out? Maybe there is something I did. As much as I know there isn't, maybe there's something I contributed to the point where I called the guy and I'll be like, guy, just be honest with me. Is there something that I could have done? Yeah, recently.
Sure.
But I was like, is there something that I did or could have done or that I need to change? Because I mean, if I'm the common factor in all the relationships I've been in, then surely there's something. And he honestly said, you did nothing wrong. Everything was him. Me, nothing. So it was like, okay, I've always known that, but because of the voices, because somehow society believed that you must have done something. You disrespected him, you were listening to your friends, all the things I've heard. You just, somewhere, you were just the woman on top because you were a career woman, so you were just calling the shots indirectly, of which I'm not the type of person. As much as I have a career, but I still believe in the Bible, how to submit to your husband. So, yeah, there's nothing that I contributed or could have done differently that I need to change. And I got that confirmation, but even though I didn't need to get that confirmation
From him.
I knew it at the core of my heart.
But as a part of your healing, you did it for yourself.
Yeah.
Because I can imagine that's humbling. It's humbling to go back to the person that ripped your heart to pieces and be like, what did I do to you?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yo.
that I
Nanga my pride. I.
No, you heal, you forgive, you go back and be like, what did I do?
Sure.
If I've wronged you, tell me. I'm that type of person. If I've wronged you, tell me. And I will take accountability of my actions. But yeah.
Sure, Thandeka, our time is up. But wow, I even find myself at a loss for, what else to say? I mean, this is just your story and it's your journey. And and I think that's the thing with some stories, that the only thing you can do is listen.
Yep.
You can really just listen to somebody's experience. And I remember when I called you asking you to do this interview, you said, Ursh, my experience is different. I didn't ask for a divorce. Somebody asked for a divorce from me. And that was the first, thing that you brought me to the realization, to bring somebody on to speak about divorce is nothing we can do with one candidate. Each person's story is different. Some people leave because of abuse. Some people leave because of, and I remember you saying it was none of that.
Yeah.
I didn't stand on the top of a bonnet and say, give out that divorce. The guy is the one that decided to leave. And that was our first phone call.
Yeah.
You know,
And
so
there was no
building up to it, I remember just realizing that each story is different. And with so many of the discussions we have here at Conversation Capital, each story is so different and there's no blanket. You know, this is your story that you've shared with us. And I hope it really just opens the eyes of somebody out there. Leave your comment, love and peace only. Can I say that?
Yes.
You know, the internet is a bit wonky. Love and peace only. You know, that's what we're trying to do here. I must be honest. We're really creating a beautiful community here at Conversation Capital. I mean, there was a specific question that we didn't address the one time, but I could tell that it was somebody who was saying, "Why are you saying that?" But I could still feel the love in that. You know, and it got me to dig in and say, why did I actually say that? You know, and then once I had dissected, I realized that, no, man, that's actually a wrong perspective that I have. You know, and so that's the community that we're creating here at Conversation Capital. So once again, thank you so much for sharing your heart and your story. And to any young person that's going through divorce, I hope this has helped you in one way or the other. Make sure that you subscribe, you like, you share. What else do they need to do? Comment. All the TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, engage. You know, if you want to drop your story in the comment box, because I've realized YouTube doesn't have a limit to the comment. You guys drop paragraphs, I love it. But please drop your story and just, tell us what you think, and maybe your story can also just help somebody else. Yep. Once again, thank you so much for listening to the Conversation Capital. Catch you next episode.